ever experienced great worship on Sunday, got to work on Monday, and struggled to see any eternal significance in your work? Your faith feels disconnected from who you are on Monday through Friday. I know it, it sucks. I've been there. And maybe you have too. I invite you to join our discipleship community in a learning experience called the Kingdom Life Blueprint, where we rediscover God's original plan for man, explore his purpose for our industries, and rekindle the passion for expressing his kingdom in our everyday life. Our faith is integral to our everyday life, our work, our hobbies, and our relationships. But many of us are trained with the escapist mentality. We grew up thinking the world is so evil that we have to get out. So we only find purpose and connection with eternity when we are in church on Sunday. But such compartmentalizing our lives into spiritual and secular was not God's original intention. The Kingdom Life Blueprint is a 3-month online program that consists of 4 core studies: Reimagine, Kingdom Habits, Kingdom Concept, and Kingdom Vocation and Venture. Reimagine is the introductory study in the series designed to help you identify and break free from imaginations and wrong beliefs, holding you back from experiencing spiritual freedom. The second study is Kingdom Concept, a rediscovery study on the Kingdom of God with topics such as Christianity's true essence, the original message of Jesus, and God's plan for humanity, giving you a solid sense of meaning in life. And Kingdom Habits, the third study in the series, will teach you the 7 essentials that will help you make an impact in the world for the kingdom of God. And finally, Kingdom Vocation and Venture will teach you how to transform the culture and change the narrative in your industry through a redemptive vision. Each week in the program, you will get a bite-sized lesson video to help you think through specific kingdom concepts, after which you will participate in the group discussion for the week. We end each week with a virtual on-hands meeting where you will meet face-to-face with fellow disciples of Christ to discuss further what you're learning. Each week will also feature guest appearances by brilliant marketplace leaders and entrepreneurs actively pursuing divine purpose and effectively advancing God's kingdom in the world today to inspire you. And also, a team of pastors will be available throughout the program to minister to you personally through counseling, prayer, and spiritual support. It's a total experience designed to minister to your whole being, your spirit, soul, and mind. When you register, you will gain access to our integrated development and learning platform called the Kingdom Life Platform, where you will view your lessons, participate in group discussions, and access a plethora of kingdom-focused content designed to nourish your faith. Our generous partners worldwide pay for the program, so you participate in this unique learning experience at no cost. Applications are due on February 1st, 2023, and the program starts on February 16, 2023. To learn more about the program and start your application, visit kingdomconcept.org. We look forward to meeting you. Until then, remain blessed. Hey, welcome back, everyone. Wow, this is awesome. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Oh, it's refreshing. Yeah, good to see you again.
Awesome. And of course, we have our guest today. I'm excited.
Yes.
Another person,
I'm
but
excited.
Candice McField.
Yes.
Good to have you here, Candice.
Yes.
Hi,
Oh my
Candice.
goch, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's gonna be fun. I'm so looking forward to this and our
Absolutely,
conversation,
absolutely.
right? So thank you,
Nice.
Philip and Michael.
Right, right. So
Yes.
for our
Lovely.
viewers, if you are just connecting with us, of course, we told you last week that we're going to have a guest with us today. And of course, Candice is here. I'm grateful that she's here with us. And we're going to talk about faith and fitness. You know, you guys know here at Kingdom Concept, we spend time to talk about the kingdom of God, and we try to bring the kingdom's relevance to our everyday life, because that's what we believe in. We believe that the kingdom of God is actually not just a religious experience. In fact, it's not a religious experience. It's actually the culture of life that we are supposed to have as individuals here on earth. And so, and our faith is full of so many principles for life that a lot of us are missing out on. You know, for the most part, a lot of people go to you know, the best experience that they have about Christianity is like they go to church on Sunday, they have worship, they had a good sermon, and then they go home, and then the rest of the week is like they're going back to a completely different life, something totally different from what they experienced on Sunday. But that's not God's original intention for us. He wants our faith and our everyday life to be the same. In other words, our work, whatever you do as a person. And so in this series, we are calling it Kingdom Vocation and Venture. And I felt there's no, better person to bring onto this, to talk about this other than Candice, because Candice runs a health fitness, company, and she's written a book called As For Me and My Body. And so, Candice, I'm just going to let you kind of flow for a couple of minutes as to like, what is the inspiration behind your work, your life, and, the things that you do? And of course, I put
Right.
your profile. I haven't done justice to your profile. I know your profile is in the description. It talks about all the wonderful things that you've accomplished. You're a bodybuilder, you're a fitness coach, you're a health specialist, you're a health consultant, and you run an
Right.
online platform that is helping people, to, build, their health and to grow in their health. So tell us a little bit about, your work, what you do, and all of that.
So again, thanks guys for having me here. And honestly, I think my journey goes back so many years. Like honestly, if you think about it, it really goes back to me being a kid because as a kid, I was
Right.
always that athlete, and so my natural strength, my natural skills has always kind of been in that wellness space. And that wellness space at the time was athletics. And then, so what people don't know about my background a lot is that I went to school for college for economics. So I have like the economics and I worked in finance. But it was when I was working in finance, I started competing in bodybuilding. So for women, there's a division called figure.
Hmm.
So I was a figure competitor. And then my second show, right, I won my professional card. And
Yeah.
so I competed at the pro level from like '06 to 2018. So my point is though, when I was working in finance, like I left finance and went into health and wellness because it was kind of like that calling and that natural fit for me because wellness, being athletic was just something I've always done. And so I started in the space and just kind of started off like boot camps and in-home personal training.
Hmm.
But and I moved my whole entire business model online. But a part of my business model is like I work with professionals that are on the go professionals, busy.
Hmm.
So that's like a one-on-one component. But what we're going to talk about today is that as for me and my body side, which is I feel like I can divide my life into kind of three different segments. And so that first segment of, hey, like my passion is like what I do through Candice McField Fitness with the one-on-one health coaching. And then as for me and my body is that calling because it brings in that spiritual element. So
Hmm.
for me, I feel like, you know, fitness and faith and spirituality is connected, but in our world, like it's so not connected all the times. Like you have physical fitness over here in
Yeah.
this little bucket, and you have faith in this bucket. But if you look at it as believers, like everything we do is integrated and correlated. So the whole purpose when I wrote the book, As for Me and My Body, was to help believers bridge their physical and their spiritual health.
Hmm.
And so I just really wanted to not only help people transform physically, but for me, I get actually a lot more joy when I see people and clients transform mentally, emotionally, and then
Hmm.
most importantly, spiritually. Like if we can enhance somebody's relationship with Christ where they like have that maturity, like you how in the like commercial or the bridge to this podcast getting started, right? In there, you mentioned, Philip, that a lot of times people like go to church on Sunday and have like an experience, but then on Monday,
Hmm.
that it's like a completely separate thing. So, like, if I can help people transform and enhance their relationship with Christ, then that's like the biggest win. Possible. And so I think for me, honestly, that gives me the most joy, whether even more than that physical transformation, which I think is important. But as for me and my body, I think is so powerful because it just helps bridge that gap for believers. And that was probably way more than 2 minutes.
Oh, no, no, no. You are doing great. um,
Sounds
yeah, it's
amazing.
interesting, because you talk about that, um, bridging that gap between spiritual
hmm
and fitness, right? So we
Yep.
tag this episode "Faith and Fitness," right?
Yep.
So what does that? What does that look like? How does someone breach that gap, and what is the connection between your spiritual life and your fitness, and in your own
hmm
word?
hmm So like if you look at my book, right, it's 21 day journey the reader goes through, and I have like these kind of short chapters, and it's I use like short inspirational, motivational stories, like kind of spiritual, and some of them are personal. I use my grandmother and some things that she imparted into my life, and there's like a followed by a spiritual challenge, and then you have like the physical educational section that's correlated with that spiritual section, and the physical challenge to complete as well.
Right.
But going back to your question, is that I feel like honestly, the first chapter is all about like that mental aspect and like being in tune spiritually. In fact, like it's called Goals Propel Purpose. And so, the thing is like God has a goal for each of us, a purpose for all of us. And so if we can understand like that spiritual aspect and purpose, and then that correlation physically is just so much easier when you understand you're in tune with him. That's the driving force for our lives. So I feel like our physical life can't even be in tune unless like the spiritual component is there, right? So when our spiritual component is there, like everything in our life can just be that much more enhanced. So how does that believer bridge that gap? I think one is recognizing, oh wait, there is a connection, because I think first and foremost, most people don't even feel like there is a connection, because like we just talked about, there's these different buckets. We separate physical health, we separate spiritual health. So the first thing is like you got to realize, oh, wait, there really is
There's a connection.
bridge.
Right.
There's a connection.
Yeah.
And so from there, it's just like recognizing these little small changes, small shifts, and seeing how they can be correlated. So, I think you could just do things in small ways, like small changes add up to big wins. And so I think that instead of like just trying to tackle that whole elephant, just take one little bite. And so I think, throughout the book, like I'm just helping you, nudging you just to take that one more step forward in these various different areas. And those areas are the core components of wellness, of whether it's strength training, nutrition, rest, right? So let's talk about rest for a second, because I feel like rest is a very underutilized component of wellness, because people don't value, especially in the Western world, a lot of people just go, go, go. I think like in other parts of the world, a lot of people take holiday and understand that concept a lot better. But in God created the world in 7 days, and the seventh day was rest for a purpose. Yet we don't, a lot of times take that Sabbath day to relax and rest. And so it's like making those small parallel connections like that, like, oh, right. God created the Sabbath to rest. So physically we even need to rest. Like, so even in your wellness training program, like you shouldn't work out like 7 days a week. Your body, your muscles need to rest and replenish, right? At least one day. So it's just little things like that. Like when you really start to break down these components of wellness, and then you can easily kind of connect them spiritually as well.
Wow. I'm ready to learn. This is good. This is so good.
It's impressive.
You said you broke there. I know there are components, right? Like the rest, right?
Yeah.
So rest is one of them, right? And then there is I don't know what the other things are, but I hope we get to touch all of them. But just to kind of dwell on that rest a little bit more, like you said, there's this consumerism, there's this drive to always like keep doing and accomplishing and moving, and even among like Christians, pastors, leaders, business owners, it's just almost like you just gotta keep moving, right? But it's interesting to me that the Bible says that God rested. So if God rested, then who are we, not to, to take rest, right? So like, what does rest look like? What does it mean? And I know both physically, spiritually, in your concept, and how do you define that? Because sometimes some people could actually be on a vacation, but they are not resting, right? And there are also people who might actually be physically active, but they are resting, And so, can you speak a little bit more about that?
I can. And so what I wanted to say first too is that My gosh, I think that there's a saying I learned years ago, and basically it said a sprinter always knows where the finish line is at. And so I think going back to your point of like a lot of times, even ministers, pastors, business people, whoever, like if we just continue to go, we continue to strive for more, more, more. But at some point, like we have to know what is our end goal and what is our end game. And so otherwise we'll just continue to run, 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 go, go, go. And I mentioned that in the book, but I think that ultimately rest is one is like it's going to be individual and customized, you know, for whatever that looks like for you. But I mean, breaking it down as far as basic principles, I think from the wellness physical standpoint, then it's like, okay, everybody says, you know, 7 to 8 hours of rest. But I think, you know, there's some give and take, like depending on your lifestyle and what you have going on. I think more importantly, it's about listening to your body. And I'm always preaching to clients that, you know, you're the best indicator. You're the best person that knows your own self, your own body. So like you have to be so in tune with your body where you can say, you know what, I just need to take a break. I need a mental day. I need just to take this time to rest. And for instance, I had a conversation 3 days ago with a client or a couple of days ago. And so she's a very busy professional and she had a really bad day at work and we just happened to have our coaching call. And the day I had a coaching call, she was like, you know what, Candice, I just took a day off because it was just, she recognized the need for that space and break she needed in her life from business and just to like focus on her. So going back just a little bit, I think number one, rest is like for a lot of people, you have to learn how to value sleep and value rest because we don't necessarily value it, especially, you know, in the Western society and culture. Because in our culture, like say here in America, it's like you can be perceived as weaker or not a go-getter if you're like getting 7 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, because I think more that's praised these days are people that sleep 4 hours because they're like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I don't have time to sleep, and I'm getting this, whatever, getting this money, getting this contract. But you know what happens if you just run yourself ragged? But anyway, yeah, like
Yeah,
if you're not
you see,
taking care of your health, like you're not going to be alive to enjoy all these fruits of your labor anyway. So number one, I think to answer your question, it's just all about learning to value sleep. And then if you have that one small principle, then that can shape the rest of your lifestyle.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, why I really love you've said a whole lot of things that if I'm to pick off, we would finish up because I know there's so much loaded in a lot of things you've said.
Right.
And one of them is this principle of rest. You know, we grew up in a culture. I mean, you mentioned the West, but trust me, Philip would tell you back home,
Mm-hmm.
we don't even know what rest is. Over here, there's a work culture, maybe especially here in the UK, where they
Mm-hmm.
always say you need to take care of yourself. And maybe in the medical field, we tend to say, oh, fitness to practice. So you need to make sure that your body is fit for the work you're doing. Otherwise, if you make mistakes, it actually backfires on you, especially for my line of work. You're not allowed basically to make mistakes easily because it's human life, and it becomes very important because as believers, we grew up in settings where you hear men of God say, "Oh, I fast for 100 days. I fast for this amount of day. In fact, I don't even sleep. I only get 3 hours sleep at night because I need to pray, pray, pray." And unfortunately, recently we've seen a few young men, who are very lovely, great people of God, and they just passed away. Some just went to sleep and then, oh, woke up with a heart attack. Very sad stories that we've had. And, one thing as believers, sometimes we need to really I mean, we know it, but sometimes we don't really acknowledge it as much, is to know that the only certificate, the only vehicle that we have, the only passport that we have to be in this world is our human bodies. And no matter how spiritual you are, until you become like Enoch. In fact, Enoch was so spiritual that he was not. So he checked out. And if you ever mistreat your body, it's not going to happen. Growing up as well, back in school, we used to joke and say, come on, why are you resting? And that the Bible says that bodily exercise profited little. But godliness and containment is great. So it kept saying, exercise in godliness. We have to keep doing it. We have to keep doing it. Forget about bodily exercise because it profited little. I'm happy that Paul did not say it profited nothing, but he said it profited little. And that little is so important because if you're going to maintain your life, I think nowadays people are waking up to understand that if you do not keep your body in the right shape, you won't even be available to preach the message you want to preach. You won't even be available for your family. You won't be available to reach the world. You'll be great, you'll be mighty, but then you'll check out before your time. And so at the end of the day, your work is short circuited because you did not take care of yourself. And that for me is so important because, like you mentioned, rest. I remember a few days back, I was supposed to go for a certain prayer walk, but I couldn't. I nearly felt guilty for it. But then I knew that my body couldn't take it because most times in the morning, weekends like this, I try to go, on a jog, and it's amazing the kind of things that, people do think that just sometimes when you go for a jogging, people are just thinking of, oh, I'm trying to keep fit. But for me, I find that early morning jogging refreshing. That when I go out, I could have a treadmill in my home, but I just feel I don't get that natural feel, that air, that freshness. And then it's amazing that many times that while I'm running around, I actually start speaking in tongues and I start praying. And it's amazing how many things my mind is opened up to because I'm in that both physical state and spiritual state where my physical body, the emotions, the things that were holding me, the pressures physically are actually off. And then your mind and your spirit is able, to be exposed to new dimensions, to new levels. And so people sometimes play down on physical fitness, but then it's amazing that it actually is what keeps you here in this world.
No, very true. I jotted down like a few keywords. And so one thing was when you were speaking, Michael, I thought about, one of my clients, I met her at a women's conference, right? And we just had a great connection. And so she was like, Candice, like her calling, she knows is much bigger than what she's doing now. So she has this vision, and she came to me because she was just like, how can I do this if I'm not in the best health myself? So like when you think about it, it's kind of crazy. Like if we're not taking care of ourselves, then how can God utilize us for the kingdom, for his purposes? And so I think that's even incentives. And then that makes me think about how honestly we're stewards, right? So I think we only think about that concept of stewardship for financial purposes, but really we're a steward of every single resource he blesses us with. And our body is like the number one resource he has blessed us with because he created us. And so how can we not be stewards of our own body? So I think like when you start looking at things like that, it's mind-boggling. And then Michael, you had said something, like taking a walk outside. And people, I think sometimes, I say this a lot, adults we complicate things instead of keeping it simple. So I think sometimes people feel like they have to have this entire workout plan all together and they need to know every single thing, but it's really about just starting and jumping in that pool and then doing natural things that you enjoy doing, especially for, say, cardio. Like Michael, you said you love being outside, walking, taking in nature, and you could just like feel his presence. But it's really, it's about finding those things. What do you like to do? If you like to roller skate, roller skate. If you like to work in your garden, that's activity and movement. And I think that there's so many simple things Like I have this guide where it's like 100 different like cardio ideas just to get your brain jogging. Like it's about movement at the end of the day. It's not, oh, I need to go be on this treadmill or bicycle or elliptical or whatever. But what do you naturally like, and what will make you happy? What do you enjoy doing? That is something that gives you joy. So yeah, those were a few thoughts I had from
And I think we've
yeah.
already gotten into the other component, right, where we're talking about like, fitness, right, workout, like the
Mhm.
routines, things that you do, to build up your body, right? And I
Yes.
like the the idea of what you're saying, Candice, like we overthink, we
Yep.
overprocess, and
Yep.
that keeps a lot of people stuck. They don't get started,
That's it.
right?
Yes.
It's like, for
Yep.
example, I
Yep.
remember I had a gym membership, and just the thought of it, like
Mhm.
what's a blocker on itself? You know what I mean? Like when I get in there were so many things and so many options. But then at some point I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep this simple, right? And so what I did was
Yeah.
I would just take a walk in the evening and plug in my headphones, and I'm listening to maybe an audio book or something like that, and I would just kind of walk like a mile and a mile back, and it takes me about 30 minutes to do that. And so by the time I get home, I'm literally like my heartbeat rate is up and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then just those little things. And then from there, I realized that okay, I have the motivation to
Yeah.
I got the Apple Fitness, and I was able to like follow some of the workout routines at home, and just before I start thinking about getting into the gym. So what do you say to people out there who like are struggling? Like they know they should do this. They know they should work out. They know they should be physically active in
Mhm.
order for them to be healthy, but
Mhm.
they are stuck. They just can't
Yeah.
get moving. Like how do
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah. So before I answer that question, I want to go back to what you just said as far as, adults overcomplicate things,
Yeah.
and you just kind of like doing cardio, whatever. But what I was going to say is that I think sometimes like cardio, moving, strength training, whatever, just that whole movement, I think so one, it releases endorphins, but I think two, like for me, and I know for a lot of others, like a lot of times you'll have like some of your best ideas, being your most creative, like when you're just doing that activity, because it's like so many great ideas can flow because you're just like in a space where you're just enjoying, like, hey, the exercise, and just every thought just seems like creative juices just flow. So I don't know. I just
Mm.
wanted to kind of point that out. Like I talked to a lot of people and they're like, man, I'm doing a cardio session, and I thought of like, of this idea, and like, why didn't I think of this before? Right. So I think there's so much power just in moving. So that was the first thing I wanted to say. And then to answer your question directly, for people who are stagnant, you're stuck and you don't know what to do, again, is basic. I think one thing I have people do all the time is, and we do it in business all the time, right? We create these mission statements, these vision statements, but I think that in our own personal lives we don't. But then if you think about wellness, we don't either, right? So I encourage people to create this one or two sentences, like kind of, I call it like a health and wellness mission statement.
Mm.
So at the end of the day, you have to have something that's your driving force that's going to propel you forward on those days that you just want to sit on that couch, you don't feel like going to the gym, you want to eat that Twinkie or ho ho or pizza, whatever it is,
Right.
right? So what is that? You have to be able to answer that question, like what is your inner motivation and what is your driving force? And so for some, maybe it's like, I just want to, I got to be able to play with my kids. I want to see my kids grow up, or my play with my grandkids. I don't know. The answers are so many
Mm.
things, and it's individualized for you. So I just really recommend that you really spend time thinking about what is your inner motivation. Because like I can be your cheerleader, you could
Mm.
be a cheerleader for somebody else, but I can't work out for you. I can't exercise for you. I can't put in the work. So you have to dig deep and put in the work yourself. But then it goes back to what we just said of like keeping it simple. And sometimes you're not going to figure it all out. You're not going to have every answer on what you should do. I mean, you can hire a coach to help you, but the thing is regardless, you have to just jump in that pool and you have to start swimming. Like even if you're just doggy paddling, like you're moving, and then you'll keep doggy paddling, and you're gonna figure it out. Like start swimming, you're gonna get to the other side. But as we were talking, I think before the webinar podcast started, behind the scenes, we were just saying you have to take action. And so God calls us, like we have to do our part. He gives us free will, but he also expects us to put our part in or do our part. And so there's, at the end of the day, we have to execute. And so just remember that even if you execute in small chunks, that's better than nothing. And so I think for a lot of people, you have to be, they're either all in or all out. And that's not really what it's about. And then also, I want to kind of piggyback off of that, because I think most people have this concept, especially like type A personalities, they're go-getters. You have this concept of perfection. So this concept of perfection again causes people to stagnate and like you know what? I messed up. I missed a meal. Whatever. I'm gonna blow an entire day. So instead of having that mentality, you have to be like, whatever. I'm only looking forward, never backwards. And then I missed a meal. I'm gonna get back on that bandwagon the next meal, not Monday or the next month, because that's what it turns into for most people, right? And so you just have to have that mindset. Like, honestly, I tell clients, I don't need 100% accuracy. Like, I want you to have fun. Like, we only have this one life to live, and I don't want you to deprive yourself. Like, if you want that piece of cake, eat that piece of cake, but it's like one of your quote unquote cheat items, for that week. And more importantly, it's about, having good habits. Like, you're not having junk food all the time. You're not missing your workouts all the time. Your norm, your lifestyle is that I work out. So you work out, you eat clean, you eat healthy. This is just who you are. So it's just trying to help people get to that shift of a lifestyle, and not like, oh, I'm on a diet, because it's not about a diet. It's about a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, so not about a diet, but about a healthy lifestyle. I really like that, because what I hear from, what you're saying is what, a bit of medical term, but I don't think it's so medical. We tend to say, especially with diabetics, we tend to say setting a personalized target, because for many people, they look at other people to set their fitness targets. Okay, you've seen this young man and he's got all the six packs, and then you want to get the same six packs. You've seen this person and you feel that they can run a marathon, and then you are barely trying to run 100 yards, and then someone says, oh, no, I want to be like that. I want to get it overnight. But it just doesn't happen like that. And I like the way you said it. Some people don't look at other people to set your target. You need to set a target that is realistic to you, that is measurable, that is specific to you, and that you know that you can live up to. And most importantly for me, what I've noticed is deal with guilt. Because for a lot of people, why they are not able to, keep fit is that they are guilty. They feel guilty when they miss things, or when they feel they've not met up to that target. And guilt now begins to become a vicious cycle, because that guilt brings stress, and the stress releases, the wrong hormones, the adrenaline, which would then add up to keep you anxious and panicky and depressed. And then eventually what you started out to get better with actually now becomes the problem. I remember, some time ago, God actually spoke to me. I woke up in the morning and I felt, oh, I didn't pray the way I wanted to pray. Oh, today I wanted to pray, but I didn't, and then I was just beginning to think. And then the problem is, the more you do that, it starts getting you even worse. And then you can't even pray anymore. And then God spoke to me and said, hey, forget about that. I'm not interested. God is not keeping a record. He's not ticking it. He's not ticking a box if you've done it today or not. So it's just whenever you start it, go
Yeah.
on. I'm always available. My presence is always with you. So you get on
Right.
with it. Like you said, it's not a tick box that you need to meet up to. No one is after you. No one is there that is going to beat you up if you don't meet that target. It's yours. You own it. If you couldn't do it, just get up the next. I love what Jesus told the churches in Revelations. He said, repent, go back to where you've fallen. Just start from there. It's not saying start everything all over again. Just start from where you stopped.
Yeah.
So just pick it up. And
Get
so
back
many
up.
times people are quite stressed out because I noticed that that's why a lot of believers get stressed out in their lives because we're thinking of this large target. We're thinking of this big things that we need to accomplish that we forget to live today. We forget to do the little things today. I remember I was taking care of a particular patient who was quite bad. He was admitted. He had a very bad accident, and then, he was lying. He was in bed. He was bedbound for a long time, and then he couldn't walk. Not that he couldn't walk, but because his brain had forgotten the use of his legs. And then I realized that gradually I could see the improvement in him. It started with stand. Oh, just sit up from your bed. And then when you sit up from your bed and lie back down. And then before you know it, after a week, he was able to now sit up by himself. And then the next thing was to train him to stand. He had his legs and everything was there. But eventually, the beautiful thing is that over time, the same person that couldn't walk, he didn't develop new legs, but suddenly he could walk. And that's talking about the importance of setting a target that is personal to you. You don't start saying, I want to run for 30 minutes when you can't even do 5 minutes. So when I started running, I always told myself, just run maybe 10 minutes and come back. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you get happy. So you celebrate the little wins because sometimes we don't celebrate the little wins. You're waiting for the big win. And so if you've done
Yeah.
5 minutes, then come back and celebrate it. Jump up and be happy. If you've done a few things, it could just be carrying a weight. I was carrying some weight after I had a surgery some years back, a year or two back, and then I realized I couldn't really carry. So I started with an 8 kg, and then I realized that I could do maybe 10. And then I kept at 10. And then from 10, I moved to 5. I added 5, so 15. And then before I know it, I could actually do 50 over time and I could do more. Why? Because I could set a target that I would be happy with myself, that I've fulfilled it, not trying to go that far to get what you've not really trained yourself to get. So I think it's all about that concept of getting ready, avoid the guilt, get ready to set a target that you can meet. Then once you set the target that you can meet, then now walk towards that and celebrate the wins. But then always keep the eye on the goal. Keep your eyes on the goal and make sure that you don't give up. You don't let anyone make you feel bad. And even if you feel, you feel you've not met up, then just pick up yourself and keep going. Because then if not, then you find some people who make a New Year resolution to drop 5 kilos this year, and then by end of the year they've actually added the 5 back because they didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Michael, you touched on so many things, like little concepts I have like in the book, right? Like whether it's, celebrate those small wins, not having that guilt. I talk about in the section, like the number one limiting factor for most people is our own selves, because we're our own toughest critics on ourselves. And so therefore that guilt, that I don't know, just beating yourself up stops you, prevents you from moving forward and achieving. So it's interesting. I've kind of ran like a poll when I kind of been like teaching some groups, and so like during this poll, that's been like the number one answer, like with all these limiting factors listed out, whether is it time, is it money, is it not having an accountability buddy or whatever, the number one answer has always been myself. So it is an interesting answer because we block our own selves so many times from whatever it is in life, and not just fitness, but a lot of times we have that lack of confidence or just self-doubt, and we may not move forward. So and then another thing you had touched on is like in the book, like I say, you know, stop comparing yourself to others, because at the end of the day, it's only about your race. The only person in your race is yourself. So you're just trying to be the best you that you can be. And I think a lot of people miss that concept too, because, you know, they're trying to look like this magazine cover or this Hollywood person or whatever. But it's not about that. And it's about Philip, it's about Michael, it's about Candice, and it's about whoever you are, just trying to be the best you that you can be. So it's just, I don't know, the world has so many, like, all these different darts and arrows being thrown in saying, hey, this is what looks great, this is beauty, this is whatever. But the standard, like all these false standards, and so it's hard for people to set their own realistic standard. And I think that key word is like realistic, right? So, and then you take baby steps to get to that, whatever you're trying to achieve.
Wow. We have about 15 minutes thereabout. So there are two things I want to get to. First is, you know, you said something about habits, Candice, and I would, you know, I'm sure you probably have some ideas around that. And then we're going to close up with, you know, talking about that bridge between, you know, as a business woman who you run your fitness outlet and things that you do, how that sort of connects with ministering Christ to people. Because you said at the beginning, you know, that you're not just focused on physical health, but you're also focused on your spiritual development, helping someone to actually find Christ. And we know that, you know, in the world, as a businesswoman, you're not serving Christians. You're serving everybody. You know, it's not just you know, you reach everybody, and being able to like make that transition, what that looks like. But we're going to talk about it. So, but first, let's talk about, you know, the concept of habits, because you mentioned it, and why that stood out to me was because I'm reading a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And, you know, in the book, he talks about how that habits are things that we do that eventually become automatic. You know, like you don't think about them. They just, you know, they're just there. It's like your brain has a way of like storing certain information so that it will reduce that cognitive overload, right? So you find, just for example, when we drive, right? Sometimes I'm driving, I don't remember driving. You understand? Like, I don't remember driving. Right. I don't remember making a turn to get to my house. I just saw that I'm at my house, but I just can't remember anything in between when I left my destination to get to my house. That means that my brain has stored all of that information. And so I can now focus on other things while I'm driving, maybe thinking about some ideas in my mind or thinking about other things while the system is still running perfectly. And so, in the past couple of years, like there was a time I was struggling with waking up in the morning to pray. Why I'm using prayer is because, you know, it's one of the habits that I've been trying to, you know, cultivate. And I was struggling with that. And I found that when I get up in the morning, I do set an alarm, right? I had an alarm that goes off at 6 a.m. And I just kind of, sometimes I don't even respond to the alarm. Sometimes the alarm comes on, I'll put it on snooze. But it has been on for over 2 years. And then I just realized now that once it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I just wake up. You understand? And when I wake up, I just wake up. And then when I wake up, I just have to pray. You know what I mean? Like there's that desire to pray. Yeah. Because over the years, it has just been something that has been so repetitive. And so I felt like, wow, this makes sense. You understand how often, you know, trying to, you know, have some type of form or structure to your fitness, your life, and things like that. How does that all like play in?
Well, one, that's all good. And so I feel like and when that in the wellness space, that term is going to be called lifestyle, and I kind of touched on that before. So at the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is help people kind of shift their lifestyle. And so you have to like retrain how you think. Like, it's not, like I said, it's not about a diet. It's just like, okay, you eat healthy. You eat healthy 90% of the time. You work out, 90% of the time. This is what you do. I work out, I go to the gym, I focus on getting my sleep. So it's trying to get those little paradigm shifts in. But like building that habit, takes time. And which is why, part of the book, like, it's 21 days, because like they say it's like 21 days to build a habit. But anyway, it's more about, like, I think, keeping it simple and maybe focus on one thing at a time, because then it's brain overload. Like, if you're focusing on too many things you're working on, like, you're not going to probably accomplish anything. So like, I would just say, kind of pick one habit you're trying to work on. So here's how you do it. I have this equation, right? So honestly, like, as a coach, if I know whatever your goals are, right, and then we all have like these limiting factors, and it could be whatever, and this definition is like things that are stopping you from achieving whatever your goal is, right? And so you have to replace those limiting factors with behavior goals. And so what are those positive behavior goals that you can do to offset those limiting factors? And that's how you start to build whatever that habit is that you're working on at that time. So, and I think that in the wellness space, a lot of times what happens is people don't prioritize themselves. And especially like when we look at women, we are nurturers, we're caregivers, and we often put so many other people first, whether it's your spouse or your kids or whatever. And so, so many people, and I'm saying now, just men and women, we don't prioritize ourselves. And I think that you have to, let's just say for working out, like, you have to schedule it in. Like, you have to have me time. Like, I'm a huge proponent of me time, like doing something that's solely for you, not for your spouse, your kids, your boss, but at least 20 minutes a day. That's something solely for you. And I'm not even talking about working out. It could be just reading a book, listening to music, taking a walk. I don't know, but something solely for you, because that in itself will help you in your wellness journey. But going back, like, I do think you have to for that habit to stick. I think you have to set some boundaries. I think you have to prioritize yourself. And when you're shifting that lifestyle, at the end of the day, it's Philip, you had said a keyword, desire. Like, you just have the desire now to I think it was pray, or read the word. And so what we're trying to do is just get people, like, to have that desire to have that healthy lifestyle. Like, oh, I have the desire to eat healthy. I have the desire to work out. I have the desire to whatever it is, get more rest. I have the desire to spend more time with God, So I don't know, building that habit is very tough for people. And that's why so many people in the wellness journey, like, you're on, you're off. You have progress, you don't have progress. But I think that when people recognize that journey for like weight loss is not going to be this perfect slope down, it's going to be this zigzag line. And so like with anything in life, there's this ebb and flow of, hey, I'm doing great, I'm not doing so great, I'm at a plateau, oh, I'm doing great. And so you have to like push through all that. Like, just know there's going to be trials and tribulations, right?
Right.
In that wellness journey. But at the end of the day, like, if you have that driving force, going back to like what we talked about, like that health and wellness mission statement, like, what is your driving force and what is propelling you to have this active lifestyle? And so you have to know your why, and you got to answer that question, and you're the only person that can answer that question.
Wow.
Yeah, just to quickly chip in there, because there's some big thing you said so that people don't miss it. It's setting boundaries, because you're not going to be able to be successful in life if you do not know how to set boundaries. There are people
Yeah.
that they are stressed out because they don't know how to set boundaries. They can't meet their goals because they don't know how to set boundaries. They are everywhere with everyone except themselves. So they are in every meeting, they are in every chat room, they're in everyone's wall trying to answer to birthday, all right, happy birthday. They need to meet everyone's needs except themselves. And they don't know how to create a boundary for themselves to say, hey, yeah, I love you, but I love me as well. And I need to take care of me. And like
Yes.
you mentioned, a lot of women and a lot of men as well, because we are trained that when we get married, or you get into a job, you form partnerships to always give. But the problem is, if you don't fill up, then you won't have much to give. So the more you get
Yep.
filled, then the better you are able to give, and you would be able to give even much more. I used to tell people that Jesus said, "Love your neighbor as you love yourself." It's very difficult that if you don't love yourself, how do you love others? And so you
That's
Right.
true.
need to learn to love yourself, because everything flows from you. You are a pastor. If you don't take care of yourself, I'm sorry, your members are not going to take care of you. And you'll be angry that they're not, but it's not their job. It's your job to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of your own mental health to ensure that you are prepared, you're in the right frame of mind to do what you need to do every day, no one else is going to do it. And the annoying, the worst part of it is you'll be hoping that someone else is going to do it, but unfortunately, no one will. And you end up frustrated because you were hoping that you are going to let go of yourself with the intention that someone is going to help you, but no one is going to do that. So I think it's very important, like you mentioned, set boundaries. Set boundaries. Life is not just
Yeah.
going to happen. If you don't set your boundaries to make things happen, if you don't create your space, if you don't say, hey, I love you, I would love to be in that meeting, but unfortunately, I can't make it right now because I need to take care of myself. Don't feel guilty that, oh, I'm just lying
Yeah.
in my bed. Why didn't I attend it? Yes, my lying on that bed is important because I need to be in that bed if I'm going to go to work the next day, or if I'm going to be able to help you the next day. I've
Right.
got to be financially fit. I've got to be psychologically fit. I've got to be physically fit
Mhm.
so that I can actually do your work effectively. And so, very
Yep.
important word that you mentioned there, know how to set your boundaries. Don't
Yes.
spread yourself so thin that you have nothing left.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, I love all of that, Michael. And it makes me think about when I was in grad school. I remember it was like one of the first semester I had some class and we had to read this article and it was called Saying No is Your Growth Strategy. Now, it was geared towards business, but we can apply it in our own personal lives. Like there's times where you just have to say no, like, and not have that guilty feeling like you just said. Like otherwise you'll just spin, go, and just drive yourself insane. So, like, there's nothing wrong with saying no. You have to take care of yourself.
Yeah. You know, it's really important. What you guys just talked about. The boundary is important, and just knowing that you cannot be everything to everyone. Sometimes you need to recharge. You need to just be by yourself and just take care of yourself. And that scripture, where Jesus said, "Love others as you love yourself." We often don't pay attention to the very thing that that particular statement is contingent on. It says, "Love other people as you love yourself," but we tend to think of just love other people, and we don't think about the other part of it. And so we run out loving the world. We go all the way out to save the world at the expense of our own lives, right? But it says you got to love them as you love yourself. So that means that if you really want to love the world, if you really want to be this world saver, then you got to be a me saver first. Like you got to save yourself as much as you would want to save the world, right? And so I think it's something that is very important. And I'm glad that, we're having this conversation why it's important for business people, pastors, leaders, everybody, whatever you do as a person, you are a leader in your own capacity, whether it's leading your own personal journey, we all have a responsibility to take care of our bodies, to take care of ourselves, to both spiritually, mentally, and I think that mental part is very key, because Jesus said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So it's possible for you to do all this stuff on the outside and you're this perfectly looking person on the outside, but on the inside, you are just as good as dead, right? And so that's where I want us to wrap it up on. I want you to take your Candice at that level now, right? Because you mentioned this at the beginning, that, the work you do, it's not just the physical aspect of it, but also the spiritual, the mental, and then also helping people develop that, consciousness of Christ. So how does that all work out? Now, so two things you talk about, the spiritual, the connection, and how all of that looks like. But then specifically, because there are a lot of people who are watching, and they want to know, I'm a businessman, I'm a businesswoman, or I work at this company, or this is what I do for a living, but I'm struggling on how to bring Christ into that in such a way that I'm not weird, that I'm not offending other people, because you don't want to go around telling your customers Jesus all over the place, right? You're probably going to lose your business. But how do you do this?
Yeah. So the first thing that came to my mind as you were speaking is that, number one, so like I even mentioned this right in the book too. Like I honestly, I'm not a Bible toting, scripture quoting. Like I love the word. I love reading it, digging in myself and on my personal time. But I'm not the like most vocal person as far as like I'm not going to be on the street corner, probably like trying to get some random stranger to listen to me. That's just not my style. So saying that, I think number one, as believers, is our lifestyle, right? So my prayer and hope always is that, people can see a light that's whatever shining on Candice or radiates off Candice that says, there's something perhaps different about her. And what is that difference? Oh, she's a believer, right? So I think like if we focus on like letting our light shine, for him, then because of that, then others will be influenced, whether they're believers or not believers, whatever. So I think, like, honestly, for number one, it's just about us being the best people, best Christians that we can believe in our own walk. And then naturally that's going to kind of radiate. And then, for me, like the blessing for myself is that, like I said, I started and I never got to that third aspect. So like I said, for me, like my life is kind of in three little segments. Like I have my purpose and passion is like working one-on-one with folks. And then as for me and my body is like the calling, because I feel like there's such a higher purpose of like connecting faith and spirituality and with physical fitness. And then the third part is like a nonprofit where I feel like that's my legacy. But at the end of the day, like because of that, as for me and my body, and I feel like that's my calling. I'm able to implement like those Christianity principles and help people in that component. And whatever, my business is my business, and I have people that are of the faith that are not of the faith. But at the end of the day, I think it's just I just try to be myself. And so if somebody asks me, about my faith, then I'll answer that question. But I think if we can focus on who we are as in our own lives and just have our light shine, that's gonna illuminate so much on others. It's just like we just sometimes plant these little seeds and he'll grow it at his own pleasure, right? So it's always interesting. I think sometimes just take like somebody who is agnostic or atheist, and but they know you're a praying person. Like if something happens, they may come to you at some point in life. You're like, hey, Candice, can you pray for me? You know, or whatever it is, because they know your personality, they know your lifestyle. So it's always interesting. Those people who lack faith will typically come to you like during a situation and be like, hey, will you just lift up a prayer? I know you believe whatever. So I don't know. For me, I just keep it simple and just try to be the best person that I can be.
You know, that's such a, I mean, a wonderful, you know, response to that question, because, you know, sometimes we think that there's just kind of like a mystery behind it, but it's like you said, it's as simple as just be you, just be the light. You know. The scripture, it says, so don't hide your light. Let it shine brightly before others, so that the commendable things you do will shine as light upon them. And then they will give their praise to your Father in heaven.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's it. That's just it. And that's Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, you know. It's amazing how, like, even me, like what you're saying, I was just thinking, you know about my product, Blockly, and, you know, what I do. And I have all these customers who, you know, are, I don't even call them customers anymore. I call them family. So within, you know, my Slack community, where we have all of the people who use Blockly, I address them as family. And to me, when I serve them, you know, whether it's I'm attending to a support ticket or, you know, somebody's asking a question, like, I'm just throwing myself into it, because, you know, like, to love them, to me, it's not just a customer or a support ticket, but this is somebody who needs help and they're frustrated with something, and I'm there to provide that help. And so the way I talk to them, the way I address them, I never get upset. You know what I mean? Yeah, some people might say things I'm like, you know what I mean? But I always got to learn, you know, to control my emotions, to always address people, you know, within my community with respect, with honor. And I've come to see that even when things go wrong in my product, people are patient. You understand? Like they feel like they owe you that, to give you that, you know, benefit of doubt and that love as well. In fact, I've seen people who've asked me, what can we do to help? You know what I mean? And that's awesome. That's awesome, right? And so you're really absolutely right in what you're saying. You know, just be you, love people. One day they're gonna know. One day they're gonna find out. And I know there are some people who have actually come to realize that, hey, well, the founder of Blockly is a pastor. Like, they've seen what I do, and they're like, okay, now we get it. You know what I mean? Like, why this guy is so loving and things like that. But that is giving praise to God, you know, every day. So I really appreciate, you know, you saying that. I don't know if you have any final words or whatever you want to throw in there, you know, before we sign off.
Man, it's just been a pleasure. Like, this is, you know, I love like doing things like podcasts like this where, you know, guys, we didn't really have necessarily a game plan as far as, hey, Candice, answer these questions, which I love, right? We just took it and ran with the conversation. It's kind of like that spirit guide us. So I don't know, just, you know, if you're just be the best person that you can be. And that's in all these different realms, right? In your spiritual walk, in your wellness, just take these little steps. Like we talked about, you know, these small wins add up to big victories. So whether it's just like you want to improve your prayer life, like start small. Okay, let me just 5 minutes a day, and then 7 minutes, and 10, whatever it is. And then same thing for working out, like start small. Same thing for eating clean. Just take out one item from what you typically eat, like chips or something. Like just focus on the small, and just you know, you over time you'll build a positive habit.
Absolutely. Pastor Michael, you have any words? This is really good. I don't know, like,
it's great.
I feel like it feels like we're on the fireside. You know, it's like you're just sitting on the couch. You know what? It's just talking.
Yes, that's good. That's what we want.
You know that's really what we want this thing to actually be about, because
Yeah.
It's lovely when, yeah, we love going to church, we love spiritual events, but then
Mhm.
sometimes just having a chat as believers, as Christians, as people who are having day-to-day experience, with our faith and our jobs, we go out, and it's not all, you don't do the fire stuff right in your job. Many times
Mm-hmm.
it's just basic things that
Mhm.
you need to know to get through the day. And sometimes these could be underemphasized, in highly spiritual environments, because then we are really, in the third heaven. But then when we come back here, then we find it difficult to translate what we saw to what we can use physically. And that's what this, the kingdom, when we sit down here to have a chat, it's all about application. It's all about how do
Yeah.
we move, from the spiritual to the physical. Because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, until you get to heaven, until you get out of this earth, you're going to still need to pay your bills. You're going to need to greet your boss. You're going to need
Mm-hmm.
to speak to your
Yes.
neighbor. And
Mm-hmm.
these are real life events. They are not
Yeah.
spiritual. So you need to know how to handle them. And so, probably lastly, I would just say, Candice is going to be here, with us,
Yeah,
in
at
the
the Kingdom
Kingdom
Life
Life Blueprint.
Blueprint. Right.
So
Yes.
don't
Yes.
miss it, because it's going to be amazing. By the time we get Candice back in a few weeks, in the Kingdom Life Blueprint course. So if you've not signed up yet, well, I would say if there is a fitness that you need to give yourself this year, it's to give yourself both spiritual, mental, and then the physical, fitness as well. And
Mm-hmm.
the Kingdom Life Blueprint course is one of those things, program is one of those things that is going to change, your mind, and it's going to transform you to get closer to that place that you want to be. So
Absolutely.
I would say sign up for the program. If you've not, go on, I think we've got the link on our Facebook page,
Mm.
sign up. But if you're not sure, just go to www.kingdomconcept.org, and you can sign up. You can go there and put up, indicate interest, and someone will reach out to you.
Right.
But don't miss it, because I would tell you, this is just a tip. But we'll
Absolutely.
spend more time on Kingdom Vocation and Venture, in
Absolutely.
the Kingdom Life Blueprint course. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for just reminding our viewers of that. Of course, Candice, you're aware of the program that we're launching in February. I mean, this February,
Yes.
in 2 weeks' time,
Yep.
and the spirit behind it is just for people to learn how to experience, Christ and their faith in their daily walk, and just
Mhm.
kind of get out of that Sunday to Sunday mindset where they can
Mhm.
actually carry the principles of their faith to work, to school, to, whatever you do as a person. You just go there and be a
Yes.
light. If all
Yep.
of us can do that, that's the best way to preach the gospel. And I know,
That right
yes,
there.
we do all these missions. We go do crusades and events, and we preach, and we make altar calls and ask people to come give their hearts to Christ. Well, that's the exception. That's not the rule. The rule is that every day, everywhere we find ourselves, we let the light of God shine by loving people, caring about people, putting people's issues first ahead of us, and just being a loving person of people within our community. And we will see lives transformed. We will see lives change. And like you said, Candice,
Mhm.
those little seeds. It's just that sometimes we're impatient. We want to harvest right away. We just want
Yes.
that person to kneel down and say, Lord, I give my life to you right now. We're not
Right.
patient to just sow the
Right.
seed. You might not be the one who's going to see it germinate. Just sow the
Mhm.
seed, because there are
So
there
the
are
seed.
lives that we are harvesting today that we didn't sow the seeds. There are people out there who have sown those seeds into
Yep.
those people's lives years ago, but we are reaping it
Yep.
today. But there are people that I'm sowing, and you and I are sowing seeds through our business, through the things that we do into their lives. And one day in the future, they are going to come to that tipping point where it's something, just that little thing that you add on it, and then it just caves in, and then there's that flow of emotion, and people, like we never can tell. So that's what the Kingdom
Yeah.
Life Blueprint is about, to really teach
I
people
love
how
it.
to, do that. So we
Mhm.
look forward, Candice, to having you, to speak to our students, once
Yes.
the program kicks off. So thank you so much for being here. We love this, and I hope you're gonna come back sometime.
Yes,
You know.
of course.
Of course.
This was so fun. Thank you, both of you, for having me. Like, it's been a pleasure, and just
Good to have
absolutely
you,
loved it.
Candice. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna sign off, but
Conversation.
just hang on, Candice. Don't log out yet. We're just gonna hang in for a little and wait for the live stream to cut off, and then we'll be right back. Have you ever experienced great worship on Sunday, got to work on Monday, and struggled to see any eternal significance in your work? Your faith feels disconnected from who you are on Monday through Friday. I know it sucks. I've been there. And maybe you have too. I invite you to join our discipleship community in a learning experience called the Kingdom Life Blueprint, where we rediscover God's original plan for man, explore His purpose for our industries, and rekindle the passion for expressing His kingdom in our everyday life. Our faith is integral to our everyday life, our work, our hobbies, and our relationships. But many of us are trained with this escapist mentality. We grew up thinking the world is so evil that we had to get out. So we only find purpose and connection with eternity when we are in church on Sunday. But such compartmentalizing our lives into spiritual and secular was not God's original intention. The Kingdom Life Blueprint is a 3-month online program that consists of 4 core studies: Reimagine, Kingdom Habits, Kingdom Concept, and Kingdom Vocation and Venture. Reimagine is the introductory study in the series designed to help you identify and break free from imaginations and wrong beliefs, holding you back from experiencing spiritual freedom. The second study is Kingdom Concept, a rediscovery study on the Kingdom of God with topics such as Christianity's true essence, the original message of Jesus, and God's plan for humanity, giving you a solid sense of meaning in life. And Kingdom Habits, the third study in the series, will teach you the 7 essentials that will help you make an impact in the world for the kingdom of God. And finally, Kingdom Vocation and Venture will teach you how to transform the culture and change the narrative in your industry through a redemptive vision. Each week in the program, you will get a bite-sized lesson video to help you think through specific kingdom concepts, after which you will participate in the group discussion for the week. We end each week with a virtual on-hands meeting where you will meet face-to-face with fellow disciples of Christ to discuss further what you're learning. Each week will also feature guest appearances by brilliant marketplace leaders and entrepreneurs actively pursuing divine purpose and effectively advancing God's kingdom in the world today to inspire you. And also, a team of pastors will be available throughout the program to minister to you personally through counseling, prayer, and spiritual support. It's a total experience designed to minister to your whole being, your spirit, soul, and mind. When you register, you will gain access to our integrated development and learning platform called the Kingdom Life Platform, where you will view your lessons, participate in group discussions, and access a plethora of kingdom-focused content designed to nourish your faith. Our generous partners worldwide pay for the program, so you participate in this unique learning experience at no cost. Applications are due on February 1st, 2023, and the program starts on February 16, 2023. To learn more about the program and start your application, visit kingdomconcept.org. We look forward to meeting you. Until then, remain blessed. Hey, Philip Willer here. Thanks for checking out our video. Lots of great stuff here. Click the like button to get more inspiring and uplifting videos and content from Kingdom Channel every week. Thanks for watching.